Hey guys, welcome to my third video in the Ron Stranger Things weathering contest. What you're looking at here is a Ferromex bi-level Autorack by Red Caboose, and I plan on doing some custom graffiti on one side. The other side I haven't decided yet. Most likely going to be graffiti. One real cool thing I wanted to do, and I've always wanted to do to an Autorack, is kind of like the tiger striping rust effect on the top. And the cool thing about the Red Caboose Autoracks is they have some really fine rivet detail there, so it'll allow me to or help me along in that process as far as the spacing goes. I took the liberty of picking out a few prototype pictures I want to use as reference. So kind of like that streaking effect there with the rust, and you can see the top part of the Autorack is more faded than the bottom flat car. So I kind of want to simulate that also. And I have another picture here. Here you can see the tiger striping effect with the rust, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to use both these pictures as kind of a guide. Really, I'm just going to freelance the whole weathering and graffiti of the car. I'll be using my trusty weathering powders and acrylic paints to accomplish this. So there's a couple things I want to do to the car off camera just to save some time, which is one being remove the trucks and the couplers. Another, I want to give it a little scrub down with some isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip, just to remove everyday handling dirt, grime, and the dust, and start masking it off. Basically, I want to mask off the see-through panels of the car so I can concentrate on the pillars, the sides, and I also want to mask the bottom flat car portion of the car. So I'm going to go ahead and start on that, and again, just to save some time, and we'll start with some airbrushing and fading down of the paint. So most likely I'll see you guys in the garage, so stay tuned. Alright, so we are back in the garage, and I got the car all masked off. That was a task in itself. I have some wicker white here and some Tamiya acrylic paint thinner. So I'm going to fill up the jar here about, well, I don't know, just enough to cover the bottom, and then fill the rest up maybe 2/3 of the way with the thinner. And we'll put a couple light coats, probably about 3 coats on the car. But we'll see how it goes, so let me get you set up and we'll start. Alright, looks like we got a pretty good fade coat on here. So I'm going to let this dry for a little bit, and we'll go ahead and take the masking tape off, and we'll hit it with some dull coat, and we'll continue on with the weathering process. Alright, so back from the garage, we're back at the workbench here, and next thing I want to do is remove the masking tape so I can put some dull coat on here, and we can start all the weathering and rusting of the roof and all that fun stuff. So here we go. Okay, here's what we got so far. That came out pretty good. You can see the difference between the flat car and the shell portion. So go out and put a coat of dull coat on it, and we'll continue. Yeah, that's my cat. Jesus. Don't you knock? Okay, so what I've been kind of playing around with here is taking my Bragdon weathering powders here. The color is ash, and basically just going over the panels here to kind of dull them down, oxidize them if you will. You can make that out, but it's coming along. The other side I plan on doing the whole side of graffiti, so I'm not really worried about it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, after a quick dull coat for the panels, we're going to start the fun part, which is rusting the roof. You can see the rivet detail on the roof here. So I'm going to start with some 2mm masking tape. This is the smallest I could find at my hobby shop. So I'm basically going to mask over each rivet point, and that'll give me a hard line to start with the powders, and we'll gradually work from there. Okay, so I did mask the sides off because I don't want to get rust on the panels just yet. And here's kind of what I'm going for. This is just going to give me a hard line, kind of a guide. Start with the tiger striping. So we have the roof of the model all masked off, and what I have here are some Monroe Models weathering powders, some dark rust and light rust, and also have a micro brush. I'm going to start with the rivets. Basically go darker, lighter, kind of just fanning the rust effect out. Alright guys, so the roof is done. I'm happy to say. It came out really good. So all I'll have to do now is put a dull coat on there, and we could start doing some rust streaks down the side, doing some more weathering to the bottom of the car, sides of the car. Okay, so again, we are back at the workbench, and what I want to do now is some rust streaking down the side of the car. I have my light rust powders, and I found an old brush that I never cleaned, so it's a little stiff. So I'm going to be using this and a straight edge. Basically what I want to do is just place the straight edge up against the car here. Make sure it looks nice and straight. You just use the details of the cars as reference. And so I'm going to get some powder on my brush here. You want to start with the heavy at the top and light down at the bottom. So again, I'm just putting my straight edge up, picking random areas. that. So I'll even do some that are like mid panel. Alright, so here's what I came up with the rust streaking going down the side. I think it looks pretty good. Here's the other side. I didn't do it all the way down because I'm going to do some graffiti all the way across the side of it. So that being said, I'm going to again dull coat. We're going to put one final layer of dirt and grime on the bottom chassis part of the car and the sides and a couple other spots, and then after that we can start with our graffiti. So we're on the home stretch here, and if you're still tuning in, I appreciate it. I know I'm kind of speeding through all these processes here, but I'm kind of in a time crunch, so I hope you understand that. So I'm gonna go ahead and go out to the garage and more dull coat, and we'll move on with the next step. Okay guys, if you are not sleeping by now, I got the bottom flat car portion of the car masked off. That way to not get some weathering powders up on the panels. I got this pretty wide brush here. So I do have some leftover weathered brown Bragdon weathering powders. I was vacuuming my desk here, and it accidentally got sucked up into the vacuum, and this is pretty much all I was able to salvage. So I'm gonna use it sparingly to weather the bottom of the car. So let's go. Be lucky if I have enough to finish, but I'm gonna do my best here. Okay guys, so fast forwarding a little bit, all the powdering on the car is done. So the next thing we're going to do is start doing some graffiti. So that's going to be on this side here. So as you can see, I didn't do the rust streaks down the side as much because they will be covered. I had one graffiti in mind, but I was scrolling through some pictures of Autorack graffiti, and I came across this one picture that I really liked, which I'll show you right now. So that is pretty cool, so I'm gonna try and do that one. So without further ado, let's get this thing cracking. Alright, so what I have here is some leftover Woodland Scenics track painting pens. I believe the color is Rusty Rail. So I went ahead and did the wheels and the trucks. And what I want to do now is paint the coupler and the shank here. So I mentioned before that you got those Woodland Scenic track pens, and you know, the tips usually get frayed pretty quickly depending on how much you use it. I know it comes with an extra tip, but even then, if you use that one up, there's still usually a lot of leftover ink inside the pen. So what I did here is just I cut the pen open and just emptied whatever was in the pen into a bottle, and it seems to be working pretty good. Stores well, so it's a good color to use for the wheels and the trucks. My thinking is, because the wheels and trucks are the closest thing to the rail, it would naturally be the same color. So I'll go ahead and get the rest of these painted, and we'll start using some powders. Alright, so I put a dull coat on the wheels and trucks. This, to me, a painting carousel here comes in pretty handy when doing that. Use some grimy gray, Bragdon weathering powder, and some Monroe light rust. That's a little too much there, but just gonna switch off between the two, kind of blending them together. So go ahead and get our first victim here. Alright, so I'm gonna start with the grimy gray. And I'll follow it up with some light rust. And more grimy gray. And there you have it. That's a pretty good looking rusty truck right there. Do one of the wheels here. Same method. Looks pretty decent. So we'll try and accomplish a coupler real quick. Thing about these cars here, I strongly recommend not trying to take them apart. These red caboose Autoracks, they don't want to be taken apart, and you can see by the bottom here, the coupler assembly part is kind of assembled in there, so it's kind of hard to get off. So I didn't want to attempt risking breaking the whole car and all that nonsense just to get the couplers off. So I left them on during the weathering. Alright, so that looks pretty good. So I'll go ahead and finish all this up, and we'll have ourselves a completed car. Alright, so here it is, all done. Got the wheels and trucks back on, all put back together. I gotta tell you, I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. I think it looks awesome. Let me turn it around for you here. The rusting effect on the roof and down the sides is pretty good. Very pleased with it. The only bad part about it is that now it makes all my other cars look like. But anyway, this was a fun weathering project to do along with my other car. It's been a pretty fun contest. Only downside, obviously takes a lot of time, and with my work schedule the way it's been, I should have had these videos out a lot sooner, but you know, life happens. So that being said, this is my third video, and I want to wish everybody the best of luck in the contest. Now I have a lot of videos to watch and judging to do. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in to this video, and stay tuned for my final video. Well, I'll be showcasing both the cars. So yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one.